Good morning, good evening, and good night, everybody. My name is Sarah, and yes, we have a bonus video this week. Now, this week, or this month in general, is Pride Month, but this weekend in particular is Asexual Pride. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday are demisexual pride, gray sexual pride, and asexual pride. And as I was rereading Let's Talk About Love, I realized we don't have many books that have asexual characters. It's something that's almost never represented in literature or popular culture at all, so I figured, hey, let's make a video about this. So starting off with the book that started all, and actually the only one I have a copy of, Let's Talk About Love by Clair Kann. Now, I'm biased towards this book, because this book got me to like contemporary romance, and that is not an easy feat, because I don't like contemporary or romance. But this book just handles it so well, and our main character, Alice, is a Black asexual biromantic, and it's such a good book. So this book actually deals with coming out problems. It's difficult for asexuals to come out because the world doesn't really understand. We're stuck right now in a society that is obsessed with sex and lust and drive, and asexuals don't really fit into that. And so Alice's girlfriend is breaking up with her because Alice didn't tell her girlfriend that she was asexual. In fact, she didn't really tell her anything at all. All Alice's girlfriend knows is that she doesn't like having sex, and the girlfriend is convinced that it's something to do with her. And so they end their relationship. And the rest of the book actually follows Alice having this crush on one of her co-workers and not knowing how to tell him, not knowing how to deal with her being asexual but still wanting to be with this guy. The next book, I am sure at least most of you are familiar with, or if not have read it, but I don't think many of you know it has an asexual character. Every Heart's a Doorway by McGuire, I think is how you say her name. This book is set in a home for children who have gone off to fantasy worlds and have come back. And every single one of these children want to go back to their worlds, but they can't, and they're struggling with that. And so our main character comes in, stuff starts happening, things go wrong, people are getting killed, and no one knows what's going on. Nancy, our main character, is kind of at the center of this all, and she has to figure out what is going on. Now, I know many of you know this story because it's talked all about on BookTube, but no one brings up that Nancy is asexual, and I know it's a minor part of the book, but it's something that it's like you never hear, and the fact that this isn't such a popular book, it's like, hey, this is here. Even if you're not into the whole LGBT culture or you're not picking up books just because it has that theme to it, this is a good book. The next book I want to talk about is The Bone People by Keri, I think is how you say their name. This book is set in New Zealand back during the colony period when Europeans are coming over and just taking over land and all that stuff. And our main character, Keri, I think is how you say the name. I'm really bad at saying names. It just flies over my head. But this main character lives in this tower being exiled from their family and all, and I was hesitant to put this book on the list because it doesn't exactly say that this main character is asexual, but is heavily implied, and it's like they're having a conversation about it. The term isn't used, but the way it is described, the reader is kind of like, if you know asexuality, you know that's this character. The next book I want to talk about is Radio Silence by Alice Oseman. Now, this book is kind of near and dear to me because it is about podcasts. And as much as I gush about Night Vale, you probably know already, I really like podcasts. Now, it is not actually our main character that is asexual in this book. It's the second main character, the one who runs the podcast. Now, our main character and this podcast person who we know as Radio Silence, that's their online name, that's their code name, they kind of need each other in this situation because Radio Silence's podcast is collaborating with our main character. When Alice, our main character, is working, however, with Radio Silence, the podcast gets viral. People start to really pay attention about it, and things are kind of thrown into a dilemma, and she ends up finding Radio Silence's real identity, and they have to figure things out. And while it's not a romance, it is a very close friendship, which apparently everybody's just loving, because I get really good reviews on, like, it's just, people really like this book apparently. The next book I want to talk about, I'm sure basically none of you heard of it because I didn't know about this book before making this list. Introducing The Classic Lit Kids by Harietta Nash. This is a UK book and it's about this kid who gets a strange box. And in this box is a bunch of different letters and clues, and it's all about kids who seem to be themed after or named after classic literature kids. We have Peter Pan, we have Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and what's in this box is a letter asking this kid who received the box to find his missing brother. So he has to team up with all these different kids from literature and go out and find his older brother who's been missing for years. When looking into this book, I made sure I got this part right because apparently it's a fairly important part to this character. Peter, kid based off of Peter Pan, is our asexual character, but the author spins it in a way where it's not, because like you know Peter Pan is like, I'm never gonna grow up, I'm gonna stay a kid forever, and you might think like if that's the asexual character, it might be a phobia or something like that, but it's apparently done really well. Peter doesn't want to grow up because he fears there's not a place in the world for him, because he knows he's not like everyone else, that he doesn't have the same drive and need everyone else does around him, and so he's scared to grow up because he knows he's not going to fit in. This is a self-published book, and it is a UK book, so it might be very difficult getting your hands on it, but from the reviews I've read, there are some grammatical mistakes and there's some plot mistakes, but this concept seems really interesting, so I myself might try to get a copy so I can read it, because this reminds me of something, and it's something I really like. The next book is Tash Hart's Tolstory by Kathryn Ormshee. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. This is another book about people teaming up and it going viral. Our main character works on a very obscure web series called Unhappy Families, and suddenly this web series gets a huge shout out by one of the world's most popular bloggers, and everything is like going, because you don't just suddenly become famous. There's a transition period, but these people who make this web series don't get that transition period, so they have to scurry and figure out what is going on and how they can deal with it while still keeping the story theirs, but making it better and making it what people expect. The asexual representation comes in when Tash, our main character, she is kind of like flirting with a guy and the guy's flirting with her, and she's like, she wants it to work out, but she's afraid of telling him that she is asexual. She is still romantically orientated to dudes and stuff, but she's not gonna do the dude. And she's very concerned about how this guy is going to take that. This book is getting really good reviews all around, and I love how stories are now starting to integrate that internet culture and how a single shout out from the right person can catapult you into a situation you have no idea what's going on, and how that can occur and how it can be written is just, it gives you so many opportunities. Being catapulted into fame is something that very few people are actually properly equipped to handle. The next book I want to talk about is Heroics by Alice Kost. Now, I don't know if it is the first book in the series or the third book in the series that has this asexual representation, but I do know the plot sounds absolutely amazing. Essentially, in the world where heroes are the norm, heroes start disappearing. And so there's this teenager ragtag crew called the Heroics, and they normally stop some muggings on the way to school in some alleyways, or like maybe stop a bank robbery. They don't deal with the big stuff. And now that the people who deal with the big stuff are starting to disappear, these kids kind of have to take over in their place. Honestly, looking at the cover of this book, I'm getting such Hawkeye vibes, and I'm like, Hawkeye is my favorite, and Kate Bishop is my favorite. She's the other Hawkeye for people who don't read the comics. And I'm just like, I really want to read this book now because I'm really getting that vibe, because it's like purple and there's bow and arrows and like, one sec. It's purple with some bow and arrows, and yes, I got a hat now. I got a Hawkeye hat. I'm so excited. It's such a hot hat though, and it's like boiling in this room, so I'm gonna take it off. But I can't wait to read this. Now, I know the term asexual is specifically used in book 3, Legend. I don't know if it's brought up in earlier books, but there you have it, a series with an asexual character. And the final story I have to talk to you about with an asexual character is Jughead, specifically issue 4, where Jughead comes out and saying, yeah, I'm asexual. And it's not really, it's a comic book, yes, and it's not really brought up again, so I was a little hesitant to put it on there, but he is such an icon, and people always point to him and saying, hey, this guy is here, this guy is real. And everyone's hoping it comes out in the show. I personally don't watch the show because it doesn't follow the comics at all, and it has a completely different vibe from the comics, but a lot of my friends do, and it's just, I really, I really want that to be brought up at least once. So there you have it, a list of books with asexual representation for Asexual Pride Weekend, or just Pride Month in general, because it is June, and it's just a really, it's a great month for reading, honestly. You want to pick up a good romance book, June is the month to do it, and it's, you have so many options out there for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any suggestions on what you want me to add to this list, maybe I can do this again and just have completely new books, and there can just be that many asexual books out there. Leave it down in the comment section below. While you're there, don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, good night, good evening, and good morning, everybody.